Hi. That's impossible light that's moving across the asphalt in the shade. You see it on the passenger side on the ground. Okay, the demons that are of 1818 too, that's Alexi Zagar, who texted me at the same time while he's molesting my person going to Alvarado Street, which is criminal crossing a path under the light source. These are the demons that are engaging in the systematic means of monitoring, and these are sex offenders who like to touch you and torment you, terrorize you, while they molest your person. That is violation. That's an unlawful touching with their demonic light activity while they're monitoring you. These are sex offenders that are stalking and monitoring touching. Okay, understand that. And this is under the light source, which is by no means going to be at this location. And while it's documented in another place, that's the significance of the documentation. And at the same time, you're witnessing demonic activity because sunlight does not create ricocheting light. It doesn't shoot off like a laser to touch some other person or any other object. And you also saw it appearing in the shade on the passenger side of the vehicle while it's underneath the light source. That's exactly what Alexi Zagar engaged in. Vanessa Dries is going to a mental, that's subject to mental examinations while they molest you. That is an unlawful touching by a sex offender who's going to be documented as a group stalker. She lives at a crime scene. Her daughter is over the age of majority, so she's not going to get the additional federal crimes, but she does monitor and group stalk and engage in the sex offense with minors who live at the property, which is what the entity is doing systematically. That's what LAPD is doing systematically. And that's a sex offender that's touching me on behalf of an entity. So understand the criminal elements, you are also legally analyzing it with regard to the sexual violence. That's a third-party group stalker, a demon-possessed one who's demonstrating that by virtue of that engagement of that impossible light. That's one that wants to touch you, okay? That's a sex offender that has no right to touch you with their hands nor any instrumentality of criminal activity, okay? And so they're going out of their way to touch you, and she repeats it after I just took images. Remember, they're all monitoring on my phone. So after I take screen images, that demon is group stalking in the parking lot, waits for me to cross the street in order to engage in the same exact touching. So I'm capturing it on video because these demons are very predictable. They engage in a pattern of conduct. That's literally why it's called the pattern of conduct, okay? This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:40 a.m. Vanessa Dries is going to be subject to mental examinations. And while LAPD, please surface on video because she's going to federal prison now. She's going to federal prison. All right? Vanessa Dries is going to federal prison. This is what this documentation is substantiating. The entity engages in threatening your life while you document. Vanessa Dries is going to federal prison. Understand that. Vanessa Dries is group stalking on behalf of the LAPD. So she's crossing path. And while you document that third party that's monitoring and stalking and violating your person, that entity on whose behalf she's monitoring you is then crossing path. Okay? This one, she's engaging in monitoring, but this one can be deported right out of this country, okay? That's how you can handle third-party group stalkers of this position. But I want to make sure I document that. That's the sex offense, and that's the threat to your life by the sex offender. Do you understand what a psychopath that is? You're obsessively stalking and monitoring, and then that sex offender is like, how dare you enforce your rights, and I'm going to threaten your life. That's a demented psychopath. That's what the demon-possessed are. This is terrorism in the United States, okay? That's P.O.C. under the light source. Yes, this is indeed the pattern of conduct. It is currently 8:41 a.m. There is no sun that is ever going to be present in Ontario, contrary to what my documentation is establishing, while it's rising and setting at the intersection of Holt and Euclid Avenue. In addition to, this is also what you understand is not the sun because 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. 8 hours from now, the entity is maintaining a light source over the same property, visible through the laundry room, visible through my bedroom, setting over this building. This is the same building where the entity was keeping the moon in alignment to me as well. The demon-possessed are sex offenders. They're violent sex offenders, and they're psychopaths, and they're sex offenders that don't want to be reported. And that goes for universal waste. And I'm going to report to the company. Not only are they engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, I'm not going to report that to the company. I'm going to prosecute the company. But while they're engaging in it, they're engaged in an outright act of, why would you leave the dumpster in the middle of the parking lot? This is an obstruction. And I want to be clear, they're doing this because they know what I'm documenting about them. And so while they left the recycling bin in the middle of the parking lot this morning, they engage in repeating it again by leaving the dumpster. They're not supposed to do that. But I want to be clear, these are demons that know that they're being documented. By them repeating the same conduct, it is in no way establishing that it's normal or anything. You're dealing with psychopaths who have been surrounded by their own criminal activity. But I want to document this, okay? All of it's going to be very fruitful, rich evidence in federal court. All right, it is currently 8:42 a.m. This is P.O.C. and that was LAPD providing evidence against Vanessa Dries. All right, and in the same sky space, you got the entity group stalking and commercial airline. Here you go. Commercial airline planes, this is crossing path. They are group stalking in the airspace. All right, this is ongoing. This is heavily documented already. While I was in the Inland Empire. Excuse me. What the entity is doing here, everything that the entity is doing, it has already been laid out in the pattern of conduct. The entity is doing everything of the entity is engaged in the identical behavioral pattern, and they have already been surrounded by a body of evidence. So there's nothing new under their fake sun that they're engaging in. Okay, it's again 8:43 a.m. and this is P.O.C. at Alvarado Gardens.